Last week on the Pine Bluff Commercial Presents the Newsroom.
Without your presence on the council, go forward might be dismantled. Does that concern you?
No.
You know, the narrative has been controlled by Sheriff Woods by stating that, you know, the judge doesn't like me, he has something against me, all those things, when that's the farthest from the truth. You know, that's the farthest from the truth.
To me, the bigger picture is the people and bringing something here, and they did have a plan, but there does need to be more transparency, more communication as well.
I mean, you just literally allowed us to be sued, and basically they can defend it, but the video doesn't lie. So it's going to cost us one way or the other.
You have people that'll say, I'm gonna fix the flooding, you know, I'm gonna get these kids out the street, I'm going after crime, and haven't looked at any data.
Yes.
You know, it's just, and I hate that, because being ignorant does make you weak. And it's people playing off of that, appealing to your emotions, you know, as we call them demigods. And it's going on, and until the people realize that, that's the issue with Pine Bluff.
Us being in the same being in the political arena together, you know, I get to listen to some of the things that she has to go through. She gets to see some of the things that I go through. I believe that it has made us both stronger. Now, you know, I can tell you, just like we were talking about, you know, the budgets and the sheriff and all those things, you know, I now have a regret for ever promoting the sheriff. And it's not personal. It's because of constant bad decisions in allowing things to happen that under my administration he would have never allowed to happen. And so I'm so very disappointed in that. And I'm disappointed in the elected officials. You know, I call it like I said, I'm disappointed. I mean, all this personal, nasty stuff that they have going on behind closed doors and out
that
front.
Has nothing to do
that
with
has
county
nothing
government.
to do with county government. And you know, I don't really get upset until, you know, because I can take it. I mean, but now, if it comes to them jumping on or saying something against Joni, and they really don't know what they're talking about. Now, don't get me wrong. She's a fireball. She can handle her business, and that's very obvious that she can handle herself. But as a husband, I'm not going to let you disrespect my wife.
You know, would you walk up on stage and slap somebody?
I might not walk up on stage and slap them, but they might better watch it. But
Get it, though.
yeah, but no, you know, I think Joni is really good at what she does. At a young, as young as she is very thorough. She is a person that researches, and she's a person that believes in numbers. And as I said this in an interview one time, there's a rapper called Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne, there's a lyric that he had in one of his songs. I can't remember the name of the songs, but he said, "Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie." And that's what we use to dictate what we do. That's what she uses.
And I rely on numbers because I do have my own biases. We all do.
We all do.
And I think having numbers to dictate decisions a lot of times helps you to stay out of that gray area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it makes sense. It's accountability.
It's accountability
in there as well.
That's it. It's accountability.
So, but you know, I feel like we're not honest about the state of Pine Bluff. A lot of leaders use their platform to only speak of some positive things that's going on.
Yeah.
And we're not even working on the hot mess behind the scenes. And I know everybody knows what a mess it is, because when there are no cameras in the room, everybody is having the same conversation. Mm-hmm. And so that's also frustrating for me, the difference between me and other council members is that I worked at City Hall before I became the alder person. You know, I got to see the real people in their jobs. I know what those departments do. I know who's not working. That's why it's easy for me to vote no when you need an extra position, you know, things of that nature. And I was coming home with something. I see it different in the administrations. I don't think there was ever a city council, as far as I know, and you can correct me, that treated a mayor worse than the one that when Debbie was in office. That's the worst I've ever seen it. But do you know we are more disconnected from the executive department than we were then?
Well, yeah. I mean, even if you take what you just said, the disconnect. Here it is, as county judge, the employees have gotten the largest raises that they've ever had in 25, 30 years. Elected officials have gotten $20,000 increases. And the last time they had a raise was in 2008. You've gotten more to do to, you know, as far as innovation, all those things, and given the ability to use automation and all those things. You've been given more holidays, and it's in policy. But I catch the most hell out of all the elected officials. Now I see why the county judges kind of set themselves apart, because I sit in a meeting and was talking to elected officials, and they tried to attack me. Not literally attack, but I mean verbally attack. I walked out on them. I said, I'm not gonna sit and talk with a bunch of grown people and say, and then and be told, well, you didn't talk to us. Hell, I don't work for you. I got up and left out of the room. I said, I give you the information. Here it is. I'm out. That's the kind of attitudes and things that we have. And I think in the city's respect, it's trying to be friends with,
Yeah,
you know, whether
that's
they're a church member or a friend of a cousin or some. I mean, it's got to be they use these connections to do the certain things.
City council is more high profile, you know, than the quorum court, and I think that allows the quorum court to handle more business than the city. And if you don't have, really, you should rate your council members as to how they vote, what amendments they're making, you know, what are they doing with legislation and different things like that. But when you rate it on, you answer your phone 100% of the time, or, you know, someone that's going to all the funerals and stuff like that, they have to be friends with people. And that's the disconnect. But I'll give an example, that $32 million.
Yeah,
City council knew absolutely nothing about it.
that's the COVID money.
No, the one for drainage.
One for drainage, the 32 million,
Yeah.
yes.
We knew absolutely nothing about it. We got an invite for a press release. We did not know what it was for. I went and Councilmember Holcomb was there, and then it was announced, $32 million for drainage. We haven't gotten details, and according to Representative Flowers, they've been discussing this for 3 years. The city council get a text at 9 o'clock that night saying we were rewarded $32 million. There hasn't been no more discussion. And the thing is, people don't like to be honest, because for some reason, if you tell the truth about something, people take it as you're at war with a person. But we all have difference of opinions. I remember when I worked for Debbie, we brewed coffee every morning so that department heads would come into our office. We sent our schedule out the day before, so the press knew everywhere we would be, the city council knew everywhere we would be if they wanted to participate. It's none of that anymore. Our conference room was also used as a meeting room. Council members would have different committee meetings in there. There is no communication. And I think the frustration a lot of times when it comes to go forward is, it's like this one entity has taken the full place of the city council and department heads. You know, when you see the mayor out, you see a representative would go forward. You don't see us in that regard. And I think that's where a lot of the issue stems from. But a lot of people, you can't have that conversation anymore because it's such a war now between the two sides that we're not even able to really have effective communication.
This sounds like an indictment against Mayor Washington.
I will say it's not personal against Mayor Washington. I have nothing to say against her, but I will say because people like her so much, in Pine Bluff, for people to hold you accountable, they have to not like you. That's the only time people will really tell the truth about what's going on. And I think we have to start doing the same thing for people that we like as well. I like Mayor Washington, but there is no communication.
Now the city got, was it $16 million from COVID?
Mm-hmm.
As I recall, you all were not brought into how that money was going to be spent.
No, I mean, everything is done out there. We're really used as a formality. We're used just for our vote to put things into place. A lot of things we don't really have a vision. Now, I will say this year, each council member does have $25,000 to use with certain restrictions, hopefully to impact their wards. So that'll be the first time we actually do have resources, but when it comes to planning and things of that nature, we really don't know a lot of things. Even when we get the newsletter from the mayor's office, it just has, day-to-day updates, but it's not some things in the works that's going on. And it's kind of insulting to the position. And this is not a knock against Mayor Washington. Like I said, clearly I support her with my vote. I think that that's what matters, but because people have taken sides, I think the public has kind of allowed this disconnect, and they're okay with it because it seems it's like this disconnect has to happen.
It almost feels as if they feed on the disconnect, the negativity.
That's what's going on. It's being fed upon, and it's like we got other business to handle outside to go forward. A lot of other business. That's actually very minuscule to the grand picture of what we do.
The police chief.
Uh-huh.
Mayor Washington up and announced that interim chief Franklin was going to be the police chief. Were you all brought in to?
No, we knew when it was announced.
It reminded me a little of when Jerry Taylor was mayor, which is probably before you were born. It's been a while.
I remember Jerry Taylor being mayor.
At the time, I believe the Civil Service Commission was
correct
interviewing people,
yes,
and bringing people to town. They were wining and dining folks and interviewing
yes,
them, and they had 3 or 4 candidates. And this was a process. And behind the scenes, he had gotten the law changed to where the mayor had the authority to hire police and fire chiefs.
Exactly.
And as soon as that got and I think there was an emergency clause, and as soon as that was signed, he had a press conference and said, "Here's our new chief," and called everybody out. Now,
yes,
Mayor Washington's announcement was not quite that sort of cloak and dagger, but I was surprised that you guys were not, because you had been involved in some of that.
Well, and I'll say this, I wasn't as offended by that, just a little bit, because the mayor is in charge of hiring and firing.
Yes.
And so if she didn't see fit to let us know that, okay, fine. But when it comes to multi-million-dollar projects and just what's going on, what are you working with, let us know. I think that's where the issue
But the finance part of it, the finance part of what you pay, because you guys have to approve the budget.
Oh, well, that didn't go. And that is when she does need us, but I think you're talking about the previous guy before Franklin. That we didn't agree with that.
Yes,
and
yes.
So.
Well, that's what I'm saying as far as, when that dialogue, when it comes to
well, you have to talk to us then, because we're the ones who vote to approve.
Couldn't the council exert some pressure to have a more transparent?
How? I mean, she's not doing anything illegal, but it's like you can't just come to us for a vote. And then if we wanted to come together and do that, guess who it would affect? The public. Because I could say, hey, I'm not going to vote to appropriate this money here, or I'm not going to vote to appropriate anything until you come talk to us at least a month in advance. Even the contract for waste management had a committee. Only one council member was present on there. We're the ones who get the complaints, and then you present us with a contract and we're just supposed to vote for it. And then we only had a month to get it voted on. So we had a big meeting, and I don't know if you recall, but a lot of the recommendations, mainly myself and Brown Jr. were making on the spot, George Wheatley was like, yeah, we can do that. And it's just work with us. But the issue, Byron, is that a lot of mayors don't have a background in city government. And a lot of them don't understand the role of the council and how it feels to be a council member as well. And I think you have your learning curve, your first term, and then I think your second term, you can really see, you know, that administration and how it runs.
So are you saying that if the mayor position would be better served if they belong or was a city council member first?
I think so. I think it would be better. If they even just had an understanding of city council, volunteered for a council member, or came to meetings prior to election, yeah, or had a background in city government or a background in administration on a high level, yeah, that would make a difference, a huge difference.
What is the key thing that's holding Pine Bluff back?
It's people.
First of all, we're not honest.
Yeah.
Pine Bluff.
Are we less honest than Searcy or Conway?
Well, we're not honest with ourselves. And we got to accept Pine Bluff for what it is first. And I think
What is Pine Bluff first?
Well, the issue is that we have a bunch of different silos that can exist totally outside of each other, which is okay. But the thing is, each one thinks that their needs, wants, and values are more important than the other one. None of them are civic literate, and none of them want to come to the table together to think of a larger plan. There's many ways we could market Pine Bluff. Right now, Julia Roberts is playing Martha Mitchell on a Star sitcom.
On Netflix.
Where we have Martha Mitchell going straight through the city. We have her house. Why are we not marketing that? Why did we not plant flowers and put up signs and call press and have tours? And it's like we keep trying, to me, to create headlines to make other places feel as if Pine Bluff is coming up. I wouldn't care if everybody in the world talked negatively about Pine Bluff, as long as the citizens here was happy with what we had and with what is going on. And it's almost like a person who puts on their best clothes and makeup when they go out the house, but when they go back in, they're a hot mess. I feel like that's who we are, and we're not addressing a lot of those things here. A lot of responsibility that's put on the council is really above us, is more so therapeutic, I like to say. But we have to figure out, who is Pine Bluff? Pine Bluff is hood. Pine Bluff is bougie. Pine Bluff is country club. We have so many aspects, and we can market off all of them because people are comfortable in existing and being able to dibble and dab, but instead of marketing them, we kind of push some to the side that don't represent the status quo, whatever that is.
You know, the mayor in Little Rock, at least initially, talked about getting more involved in the schools in Little Rock. You feel like our schools are holding us back?
I think our schools are holding us back in the way we're trying to market Pine Bluff.
Right.
Because if your schools are not doing good, you cannot market this place to young families, right? Jefferson County loses over $500,000 annually to people who commute to Jefferson County and leave here. I think public schools and
people come to work and then go
and they go back.
Work and go home.
We're losing over $500 million. And I think public schools all over, especially in impoverished communities, are going downhill anyway. The council has no authority over the schools. We know that, and for everyone's platform running to be education is crazy to me. But the thing Pine Bluff has, okay, so yeah, the schools, our young people are probably going to be undereducated. But schools do not teach your children morals and values. And that's the issue we have with our young folks. That starts at home. The council can't teach you that either. It's nothing we can do to make a child respect themselves and the life of each other. And even though most kids do, we have some that are so extreme on the other end of the spectrum That's really our Achilles heel in Pine Bluff, is this crime aspect. And no one talks about it because in the Black community, we only raise hell when the perpetrator isn't Black, when the focus should always be on the victim. That's who we should be advocating for. The thing with the sheriff's office.
That was exactly what I was thinking when she was saying that. You know, if that individual would have been a white officer who attacked a Black detainee,
Would have been in an uproar.
you would have had all of these so-called community activists coming out and speaking up against that. But since it was Black on Black, no one has said anything.
Because
Really
it's not
think
about the
that's
victim.
crucial to this story. That's been a factor.
It's
I
not
think
about
so.
the victim.
It's not about the
the
victim.
perpetrator more so. Think about any times we've had activists and people come down here. The victim was Black, but the perpetrator was non-Black. And that's when people get in an uproar. And
Exactly. A perfect example is at the city street department,
Yeah.
whether it was Deltaplex or whoever, they raised more hell about a door being locked because it was a white supervisor and you had a Black employee complain about it, that they raised more hell about that than a young man being beaten in jail, jaw broke, nose broken, fractured, and an eye socket fractured. I mean, go figure. It doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense.
when you talk about the schools, the citizens, we did this to our schools. The schools were going downhill when I was in school here. They were. Pine Bluff has been declining, I'll say, since the early 80s. And I base that off our housing stock is mainly prior to 1984. So that means we have not even really been building new housing developments here. This has been going on. This didn't just happen. What we're dealing with now is things that started decades ago. And I'm afraid to see what we're birthing for the next generation to have to deal with, to be their reality. I think even me moving back here, I was stuck between what I remember Pine Bluff being and where I wanted it to be, and not really accepting Pine Bluff for who he is. I call him a he because no woman would be this hot of a mess. And so, and I hear people still talk about Main Street when it was thriving. It has always been ragged and dilapidated my whole life.
Yeah.
These kids have been used to what we see as crazy right now. This is their reality, and we're still stuck in trying to make Pine Bluff somebody he's not.
I had a caller a while back, and they said, I wish we had the newspaper we had back in the 80s. And I said, what did your town look like back in the 80s?
Yeah.
How many places, how many different grocery stores were there? How many men's?
You know what?
Places where a
Yes.
man could go buy a men's suit.
Exactly.
On Main Street.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the news. I mean, culturally, in the United States of America, we do not value the press anymore. We do not value expert opinions. People will rather jump on a Facebook Live video than to actually believe a news story with real reporters. And so this isn't just a Pine Bluff problem. It's just that Pine Bluff was already at a vulnerable state. Then all the other vulnerabilities is just making the foundation very rocky.
One of my favorite comments on Facebook, somebody will say, did you even read the story?
Yes.
Because they've gone off in left field
It's
about
the truth.
something. And
Yes.
It's like, well, that really wasn't what the story was about.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, that is where we are. I tell people all the time, when I first ran the 2010 census, my ward had 12,500 people in it,
Right.
okay?
What are you down to now, like 10 or 9?
Probably about 10, yeah. And so about 12,500, 7,000 of them were registered voters, okay? But
It's pretty high.
But listen, that election for all of Jefferson County, what was it, 9,000 and some voters?
Yeah, something like that.
For all of Jefferson County. Which, if my ward would have voted, Ward 1 could have dictated who won office. I mean, isn't that incredible? And
Yeah.
people don't know the power that they have. And it's so asinine that people are not involved in local politics. these are the people making your decisions every day and
Usually
going
about
with the flow.
25%
Right.
of the public can really have sway if that group actually votes.
Right.
Yeah. And this is the reality, and I think we need to, in any plan that we have, it needs to be based off the reality of Pine Bluff, not these ideas and visions of what we think will work
What
or
we think we were.
Northwest Arkansas is doing. Because once upon a time, Northwest Arkansas was looking at Pine Bluff at what we were doing. And I think we need to cater to the community that we have and continue to grow and stop trying to fast forward us into the future.
Seemed like in those days, the schools, they talked about the national merit finalists.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had a dozen. We were just
You
really
had
setting the stage.
setting the stage. In industrial wise, you had all kinds of arts that you can get into. I mean, I remember they had mechanics. I mean, teams that would compare to anybody in the state or in the country. You had all kinds of things that was going on at our school districts, and even if a person did not seek college, they were able to still get some type of career and be able to maintain. But that's not what we're teaching our kids now. I don't think our kids are even interested in those core values of old.
So if we don't have a school system that attracts young families, and people are hitting the exits, or at least living somewhere else and commuting, and then going back home, how do you attack that? How do you approach it? And you have no control over schools.
Okay, so
They don't seem to be getting better, although
I'll tell you this, look at your upper middle class and look at the leadership in this community. Most of their children and grandchildren do not live here. It's a fact. And I think that shows you that we are not attractive to families. Mm-hmm. So most of your people in leadership that we hold in high regard, their children are not here. It's only one council member who has a child or grandchild that actually goes to a Pine Bluff school district. That speaks volumes. Mm-hmm. Maybe we need to start marketing our city to retirees. If we didn't have this element of crime, because that is something. More independent retirees. This is a rural area. It takes you 10 minutes to get places. There's no traffic. It's not crazy interstates. You could still work. You could have a lawn mowing business. You could get a house and flip it. It's so many things that we could look at as to who is Pine Bluff right now.
Or housing.
You're saying,
right.
Just wire around the fact that we have
have
a
to.
school district.
And then think about it. Property values could go up, and that is more money for your districts and things of that nature. But right now they're desperate and they're vulnerable. And a lot of people look at our schools, and that's the main reason why a lot of young families would not move here. And then you have that element of crime, which we all know that. But if we really focused on Pine Bluff, what we have going for us, I think it would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And there was a time when people just lived in the county outside of Pine Bluff.
Right.
But you're saying people are just hitting the exits.
There's a hidden exit
totally
and totally getting out. And
I want to get some land back to the county that we've taken in the past. I do. I'm not going to name those areas.
Yeah.
Is it unannexed?
Yeah, I remember when places like the Loop was county.
Yeah.
And then the city annexed it.
And the city has not, I don't know, but the city
has
not done the Loop any justice.
Yes.
We have not helped them since they have become a part of the city, and it's like we keep trying to get more land, and it's like, let's, focus on what we have. Mm-hmm. But until you get regional planners, people that's in economics and things of that
even
nature.
City manager.
Well, no.
I don't know. I like the city manager.
It depends on your council.
Yes.
It depends on your council, because your council chooses your city manager, and I just don't know. I just do not have confidence. But right now, the way our city is being ran is almost like we have a city manager, which is Nowadays, people expect the mayor to be a PR person, come to all your events, go to your speaking engagements, and it's like they actually have a really big job to do. I remember when I worked for Debbie, she used to send me out to all those things, and I loved it back then. And people say, "You're the mayor." I'm like, not even by a long shot. I'm just here speaking. She's actually doing work. And so it all goes back to accepting Pine Bluff for who he is. And coming
Why do you say he? Because
no woman would be this hot of a mess. I'm telling you that now. And instead of us trying to blast ourselves into who we want to be, work with what you got. Try things on a more micro scale, a smaller level. See if it worked, and then go from there. Because did you go to the Christmas parade?
Yes.
It was beautiful. It reminded me of old times.
It was too long. It took forever.
But it reminded you of old times. And guess what? The community showed up. You know why? Because their children were involved in it. It didn't take millions of dollars to do that. Main Street was still raggedy when it happened, but it did not matter.
When was this?
The Christmas parade.
When was this?
December.
Beginning of December.
Oh, they were so glad to get out from COVID. I mean,
It was a beautiful event. It really did feel like old times.
Yeah, it might have been, but that was COVID. They was tired of being stuck up in the house.
You can't speak on this. You weren't there. But I say that to say it didn't take any resources to do that. That was just us being a community and showing up for each other.
So it's possible.
It's very possible. Oh, it's so possible. But I look at Gerald and what he's dealing with. The citizens are going to have to get aboard. And I mean, most of the people who are upset with you, be honest, it's because you didn't hire one of their kinfolks. It's something silly. The truth is really behind the scenes, because those people are happy they got those raises. You $20,000 raise. You can't convince me otherwise. And so the citizens are going to have to get on board and understand handling business is not personal.
It's not personal. It is what it is. It's business, and it does not have a face or a name that goes along with it. Again, it's about those numbers, and so that's what
the world you two describe sounds like, at least from a political standpoint, that we are just
1884.
Yeah, novices or very immature about about how to run something.
Yes.
That is the truth, because like I tell people, you like to blame the city council and talk so bad about us, right? But if you divide the city council, all 8 of us, and you write down our personality traits, our strengths, and our weaknesses, we really do represent 1/8 of the voting population. They act just like us. That's why they like us and they elect us. If you look at Ward 1, me and Lloyd are a great representation of it. You look at Ward 4, their elected officials are a great representation of it. And I think instead of trying to get these people out of office, because the voters spoke for them just as much as they did for Go Forward. Instead of trying to get them out of office, try to figure out what is it about them that their supporters like. And what can we do to engage their supporters in that same way, rather than trying to force new leadership? Because maybe the voters don't care about the things that you would think that they should. And I think it's accepting leadership for who it is, just like accepting the city for who it is.
Of course, you can't look to Washington and see that anything close to that is happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're so far left or so far right.
To the D's and
to
compromise is to cave in. And,
it's a gang mentality. They're red and blue just like the Crips and Bloods, I say. And for us to be adults and acting in this absolutist mentality is really discouraging. But the thing is, your local government does not have to act anything like the federal level. We could change it tomorrow. But in order for citizens to hold their leaders accountable, if you're grown and capable, you have to be accountable yourself. You have to learn city government. And what we get now is people coming to a city council meeting already with a chip on their shoulder, angry, yelling at us because we didn't discuss the youth, because they don't understand we have an agenda. This isn't just an open meeting where we just talk to each other.
Well, I mean, you didn't know anything about it.
Well, look, I mean, it's gotten so deep that you got grown elected officials putting their hands on other people. I mean, it's crazy. you know, for
At the courthouse, taking their hands off
that
somebody.
you get so there's no business that we handle that should get so personal that you up in someone's face or chasing them after a meeting or getting up, you know, or putting your hands on someone. That's nothing that we handle that's that serious.
Well, I'll say this: what difference? How dare we talk about
But,
our young people?
yeah, young people.
They
yes,
get it from
they get
us.
it from us. They get it from
They
us.
get it from us. But
You know.
we like. I think it's an easy scapegoat to blame it on the youth. But it's like they're getting it from somebody that they're around. Kids just don't know how to fake it as good as us adults do when we step outside. Yeah.
Adults have filters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're nice, nasty, and some people
Exactly.
like to call.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good term.
There is definitely hope. I think as long as there is a God, there is definitely hope. But God does give us free will, and their responsibility is on this community. And Pine Bluff, for us to not be succeeding where we're geographically located is amazing.
It's amazing. It's a river, interstate, airport,
Railroad.
railway. You just don't have that combination.
For your university.
Yeah, that's right.
To your
You don't have that when you.
Growing medical community.
That's right, a growing medical community. So when you put that.
Industry. Did you
that's
say
right.
water for the port?
Yeah, water for the port. I mean, so when you look at the resources, the natural resources that we have, along with transportation needs that can be met, we have everything centrally located in this part of the county. The city has it. I mean, I promise you,
In Southeast
even
Arkansas.
Bentonville or Jonesboro would love to have what we have. I guarantee you they
cost of
could.
living,
I
plenty
guarantee you they
of
can
land.
market it.
Yeah.
They could market this, and I mean they would be 10 times.
But it's the quality of life.
Right, it's a quality
It's
of life.
the, let's go see a movie tonight. Well, you can't.
Exactly.
Or let's go out to eat. You have some choices, but not many.
Not many.
But Byron, you know what? And this is just me speaking. What I would just love, and I don't mind hitting the road. Little Rock isn't that far. If I knew that if I accidentally left my car door unlocked or my house unlocked, that my belongings was going to be safe. If I knew that when I went outside to my car, I did not need a weapon. If I knew that I lived in a clean, beautiful city, I wouldn't care if we just cleaned it up and cut all the grass and was known as the best cut city in the United States of America. People appreciate those things. And you know, we have codes on the book for all of this. We have dropped the ball in enforcing those things. And like
Sometimes,
you say,
yeah,
quality of life.
right.
And I think we can't force businesses to come here. Businesses are not coming to save your community. They're coming to make money.
To make money.
And when they come here and they see the devastation, that makes them not want to be here. But if they see a community that cares for itself and clean up after itself, does the bare minimum, I think we will attract more. But you can't put the cart before the horse, as they say.
I think my most successful part of being sheriff is when I had the clean team out on the highways picking up the paper. People love to
And they could
see
see
that.
it,
And they
yeah.
could see the Martha Mitchell cleaned up, and we mowed the grass. We did all those things because sometimes it starts with the basic little needs of, you know, if you clean up, you know, it gives you a sense of belonging, you know, a pride.
That's why I don't have confidence in the Pine Bluff Dalloway School District.
That's going to work.
And I'll tell you why. When you ride by that campus, the grass is not manicured. When I go on that campus, it's not tissue in the young ladies'
You're talking
restroom.
about either one of those campuses now?
Well, I don't have confidence in any of their plans right now.
Okay.
Because like I said, they're not even manicuring the campus as it is. You're not keeping up with your HVAC. Do you know they didn't have heating or air during either season? The girls' bathroom doesn't have hot water. There's no tissue in a girls' bathroom. Do you know 34th went without water for the whole day for the students? And so if you can't take care of these
Basic
small,
needs, yeah.
basic day-to-day needs, I have no confidence in any other plan that you put
That
into
you're putting
play.
together, yes. And when you can go to places, you know, Bentonville High School, my God,
Look
looks
like
like
a
a college
college
campus.
Yeah.
And I mean, well manicured. I mean, so that right there gives you a sense of pride. You know, just looking at these other high schools and different schools that you can go across the state and see that they take pride. I'm telling you, just looking at it without even knowing, going inside. Number one, if the outside was immaculate, you know that you were in a clean, positive environment if you went on the inside. And so that's not what you get when you see a Pine Bluff or a Dollarway or whatever. That's not what you get. And so sometimes those smallest basic needs
That's what I look for.
needs to be met.
We can
Yeah.
rebuild
We
later.
can rebuild
but are
later.
you taking care of what you have
What you
now
have.
with pride and dignity? Why does everything have to be new for us to care for it?
You know,
Well, it's the, every student that walks out the door, you know, as our population in Pine Bluff at least has dropped from in the 60s to now, are we even above 40? Maybe not
We're
now.
really not, because they're counting the jails
Yeah.
in on that. So,
That was
but
another
yeah.
Jerry Taylor thing.
right.
Annex the jail.
Yeah,
But if, you know, every kid who is not here
that's right.
is a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long for that to
Yes.
ratchet up into the millions over
Yes, over a period of
course
time.
a period of years.
Yes.
So, but I've noticed that too. You go to Pine Bluff High School campus and it seems
It's
like
not
it
even
always
edged.
always needs mowing. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not even edged. The buildings aren't power washed, and I think that speaks volumes. But I will say this: I am very passionate about Pine Bluff. It is my home. It's where I'm from. Both sides of my family, 3 generations deep on both, and I'm really entrenched in this community.
Maybe that's why they treat me so bad, because I'm actually not from Pine Bluff.
No, that is Pine Bluff does not like outsiders.
You know, I'm from
Humphrey, he's
Humphrey.
in Jefferson County though, so he halfway gets a pass. But Pine Bluff does not like
Yeah,
outsiders.
I just, you
And
know,
you
you
done
would
came
take.
here with the longest political
Yes,
campaign
never
I've
lost
ever
an
seen.
election.
Yeah.
Never, as far
Shame on
as fundraisers, no one has had larger fundraisers as I've had. You know, you take someone that's been involved and instrumental in getting all these buildings done construction-wise. You know, just the success of even the sheriff's office under my leadership. I mean, went from raggedy to, and I won't say raggedy, but because Beau Fontaine was a great sheriff. But we built upon that. We had better equipment, you know, more revenue coming in. I mean, just all kinds of things that made the county better. But man, I feel like, you know, I get jumped on more so than anyone.
I know that's the truth, because when I first announced I was running, I based it off my education and my travels. You know, I have some pretty cool things I've experienced. People did not care about that when I went door to door. When I said I was Glenda Surratt's daughter from the east side and Joni Alexander daughter from the west side, that's all it took.
That's all it took, yeah.
For me to get the support. It drowned out every rumor that people put out there about me, because that's what this community looks for.
That's people.
Yeah, that's that connection. I mean, we're Southern, you know, we're Delta, Bible Belt, and that's just who we are culturally. I think instead of people taking advantage of that, we should build off of it.
But we get accused of things by certain people, taking money and all those things where, you know, it's ridiculous, because I never touch any money. But yet you get accused of that. But you get accused of the very people who have a record already.
Yeah,
you know,
council does not sign a check. We don't cash a check. We just appropriate dollars. Now, anything beyond that, hey, if you can prove something, prove it. But
it's crazy.
The descriptor I always hear of county folks is he's a crook.
Yes.
And they never expand on it.
They never expound it.
Crook, it seems to be
yeah,
the go-to.
it just the go-to word. But as if you look at my record, I mean, you won't find any crazy stuff like that in my record. And as a matter of fact, people who know me know I don't go for things like that.
I wasn't saying that they were saying you were.
Yeah, I mean, but still,
word,
but
yeah.
But they use that loosely.
Very loosely.
But again,
and we didn't even touch on, you mentioned being from Humphrey, you know, just all of the once cool little towns in Jefferson County.
that have been,
I was covering education back in the 80s,
Right.
you know, and those districts, there was a Wabaseka district, an all-timer
All-timer,
district,
yeah.
and that was already, Wabaseka had already
Yes.
gathered some other school districts, an all-timer, and then they joined, and then they came to dollar way.
Yeah.
It's just been this sort of
Yeah.
domino, but
Yeah, it's been a domino
Cheryl's a
thing.
cool town.
Yeah,
and
yeah. Humphrey, you know, we were probably one of the only little school district, and I remember the number, District 33, the schools that had money in the bank. We had over $400,000 in the bank. For a small school, we just didn't have the number. And so we lost our school simply because we were 25 students less, and they couldn't put it together to bring Humphrey, Alderwoman, or Wabaseka together, which I think that they would have built a whole new school, you know, for that. But again, I mean, this consolidation stuff was hurt a lot of small towns, and it was disheartening to me because you could travel up northeast, northwest, and you could still see small schools intact.
Yeah, Poland over in Grant County is very small.
It's very small, but you
town.
see them still intact. And I think the southern part of the state was really discredited.
And when you lose your greatest natural resource, which is your children, your community is going,
It's
to,
going
die.
to die,
That's
yes.
your lifeblood of
Yeah.
it.
I remember the superintendent, Alderwoman, he said, I just hope Wabaseka doesn't come over here just as a failed district and like no money in the bank, which was what happened. They just showed up on the doorstep
Yeah,
one day and
that's
said,
it.
you have to take our kids.
Yeah, DeWitt was glad to take in Humphrey because they got a hold of that again, over $400,000.
What do you think about the Whitehall Pine Bluff beef?
What's that?
You know, it's that
It was just this.
Yeah.
it's absolutely ridiculous. It's
Are you
we're
talking
all
about
Jefferson
where the
County.
line is? That
No,
one?
don't
No.
even bring that
Okay.
up.
Don't
Don't
even
even
bring
say
that up.
those
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. No, just
Whitehall is stealing everything from Pine Bluff, all this kind of stuff.
not
man.
understanding that Whitehall is really a suburb of Pine Bluff to
Yeah.
me, you know, and just the division of it is still Jefferson County. You know, what benefit? Whitehall cannot make it without Pine Bluff being successful. Whitehall will never be a Pine Bluff. We will never be a Whitehall. And to be in competition with a city of, what's their population, 5,000?
A little over
Maybe a
5,000.
little more.
It's like an adult battling with a child. Like, we shouldn't even be.
The thing is, they get all the
comparing.
presents at Christmas. You know,
I think they
get
work-
the new hotel, they get the
But
new
think about
restaurant.
But
it.
that's management. That's Noah Foster I can't take that away from him because he's constantly out recruiting. He's constantly. I mean, that is his purpose.
And on top of that, he has his council's support. Not because we're supposed to blindly support our mayor, but because they have the relationship. They already
and
know
they
how
talk,
they're
and
going
they
to vote.
talk to one another. They
Well,
have that
a
communication.
school district that's not on the roads.
That's right. That's right. And they have that communication. I'm telling you, when they go into their meetings, it's like, and they're out because they already have the same thing in mind, the same vision.
And that speaks volumes to that community, that they're electing people that kind of all align. We have some different viewpoints going on, probably 8 different viewpoints on our council, but that's who we are.
I guess in the early days, and I guess it still is just a white flag town, you end up with the executives if they do come to town. When I came to work here as publisher, I replaced a guy, and he was the editor / publisher of the paper. He lived in Whitehall. I moved into Pine Bluff because I felt like that's where the publisher of the paper should live. But a lot of people have moved there.
Yes, yes.
You have white flight and you have middle class flight that kind of happened at the same time.
I think middle class flight has been the biggest.
I moved away from Broadmoor. We moved out in the county. I grew up in Broadmoor and we moved out in the county, but I think white flight has been happening for how long and how many different places? And for us not to figure out how to sustain our own community beyond that is beyond me. We could be putting things in place right now that stops renters, a certain percentage in certain neighborhoods. Like, those are things we could actually prevent from happening, because that's what happens. People leave these properties at such an alarming rate and they don't sell all of them. They start renting them out. They rent them out and then they become slumlords. The property value goes down. The school suffers. Now that's something leadership could
Right.
stop from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw that happening in the 80s. That's when AP&L left. That's when the Arsenal downsized. So you knew that this was coming. And that's why I don't put all the blame on this council. This was decades and decades of leadership.
Last week I went over, there was a crime story, and it was like 22nd and South Beach, and to get there, it sort of took my breath away to see. We lived over on 17th and Cedar. We rented a house at 16th and Cedar, and then bought a house at 17th and Cedar. So I know that area because I drive through there some just to see the old neighborhood. But this area going out to the Beach Street was, boarded up house, dilapidated house, burned out house.
I'm happy you brought that up. Do you know Beach Street apartments have had over 20 homicides in the last 15 years?
Really?
Why are they even allowed to be functioning? That's what we could be doing. I had someone come
20 homicides in
15 years, and it could have been less than 15, but I know at least 15. But we had what would you call this person from the bank? I forgot what her role was, but we kind of contract work with her, a compliance person from the bank, and they wanted me to drive her around to our different branches. So coming from Chapel Branch to downtown, I took her down 17th. And she said, "What storm came through here?" And I bust out laughing because I was like, what? But she saw all these boarded up houses, and she's thinking of like a Katrina happened here, but
earthquake,
something. This is
infestation of
not
locusts.
normal. And Byron, I've lived in other communities where all I did was pay my taxes and vote, and had a far better quality of life giving less of my time. I have done everything that you tell citizens to do. I bought a house in the hood. I would never do anything like that again, because guess what? My property value, even though I've done work in my house,
Has gone down.
has went down because of the comparable properties. Quit putting the progress of the city on the people who are already the reason why it is progressing. I work on nonprofit boards. I've worked for a nonprofit. I work in the private sector in banking. I deal with low to moderate income products and people. And it is, I would feel more positive if we had just one area of positivity, just one area that I could brag on that's doing good. And I can't. And I measure our city's success by all of these boards that I'm on. We need board members. It's all the same people being funneled through all these different boards. There are no volunteers for anything. People don't show up for anything dealing with the city. That's what I look at when I look at my city and see how are we doing and where are we going. So.
I ran into a guy that used to be there, Stephen Bronskill.
Mm-hmm.
Did he work for Hollingsworth for a while?
He worked for Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, Pine Bluff is 1.5 steps forward and 1 back. And so he sees some progress, but that seems awfully meek and mild. Is
it progress when we're doing what we are supposed to be doing? To me, I think we're supposed to be tearing down houses, and that's not progress to me.
Well, it's not progress. I mean, if I was on the outside looking in, and you got the city of Pine Bluff suing the county, you got the sheriff suing the county judge and the quorum court members, I'd look and say, well, they definitely don't have it together. I mean, they already have confusion going on. Why would I want to move into something like that? And when all it takes is people coming together. I mean, as I said on the radio stations or whatever, that the mayor is the chief executive, I'm the chief executive. Forget what the lawyers say, forget what the city council members say, and we come up with an agreement and say, okay, hey, this is what it's going to be, and then boom,
it shouldn't have had to win
it
to a
shouldn't have had to
lawsuit
go to
without
a
any
lawsuit,
discussion. That's what you're saying.
And we had some discussions, but the discussions in front was, okay, hey, we need to look at this, and then the discussion behind the scenes said, well, I'm gonna do this or do that, and then that doesn't happen, and you get back in front of those same people, and then you totally change from what you said in the private sessions, and so that's very disappointing. when you look at these things. And I think a lot of that goes on. We say we're a community that loves to hear ourselves speak. We love to hear ourselves speak. We're so eloquent when we're in public speaking. But in all actuality, when we not in the public, behind the closed doors, we're a hot mess and not getting anything done. So we have a whole list of problems that we have, but there are some simple steps to take. Clean up. Some things are simple that you don't need the city council or quorum court members to,
Hold property owners accountable.
yeah, hold them accountable.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
you two, for coming in. This has been very informational. Always good to hear from you all. Good luck to you in whatever you choose to do after
Thank you.
the city council. Good luck to you, Judge. I appreciate y'all coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
That's a
Appreciate
wrap.
your time.